This is Mac OS Ken.
Wrapping up our end of the year wrap up. It is Friday, the 31st of December, 2021. I'm Ken Ray, and this is a special edition of Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSCan. MacCast Adam Christianson and I got to spend an hour or so with the Silicon Valley Mac user group last week. When we were done, a couple of members had a hardware question and an augmented reality question. That is how we wrap the hour, and that is how we wrap this week's shows.
An interesting thought occurred to me on some of the hardware. A lot of the advantage that seems to have been gained this year on using like the M1 chips and getting into the Apple Silicon, on the one hand, has been the incredibly better battery life that it's been giving. But there's also been a lot of commentary about the much higher amount of processing power that things have. However, that processing power seems to be oriented towards multiple cores and parallel processing. A lot of that is going to require the apps to make better use of that. Mm-hmm. Do either of you see any serious embracing of that in more than the professional programs out there?
I think that's really going to come down to the application and the developers and what you're doing. I mean, at the end of the day, the interesting thing about that, right, is like from a single core perspective, there's almost, I think, maybe even literally no difference between an M1 and an M1 Pro Max. It's like incredibly close, if not identical, from what I remember from some of the benchmarks and the tests and stuff like that. And so it comes back to the question of like, how fast do you need your word processor to be? like where do you gain advantage from taking advantage, moving to multi-core? And that ultimately really comes down to the application and I think the developer to kind of decide on that. So it's an interesting thing to think about, and you're definitely right. Like, I mean, it's multi-core, it's GPU acceleration where we're seeing the most performance gains, and that tends to lend itself towards more the pro applications. There are applications in terms of like, I think where we see more performance increases on the consumer side is with the neural engine stuff. And there were improvements, we just kind of glossed over them, to like the neural engines and those sorts of things, and machine learning, right? And so the ability to do things like analyze images or analyze audio or find things with machine learning and smarts and stuff like that. And that's probably also glossed over and probably more applicable to more of the consumer applications, I think, than the processor, GPU, multi-core stuff.
Suggesting that where everything is going to be much more towards the things that can be done in the background, to help on the natural language or the intuitive knowledge of of what you might want to actually do with your machine. Right.
The only thing I was going to say really quickly, and this is my guess, because I have no clear idea, except I think about the things that like come on your Mac now that used to be pro apps. So, I mean, the kind of question that you're asking, it feels to me sort of like once this becomes a playground on which everybody can play, then all of a sudden people start taking more advantage of that, right? I mean, what we think of today as a pro application, Final Cut Pro costs $300. $300. That used to be a room. That used to be a room that you had to go to and you had to hire people and you had to do stuff. And now Final Cut Pro is $300 and it's still pro, but anybody can have it for $300. So, I mean, and I know Final Cut Pro doesn't take advantage of all the stuff that you're talking about, although I imagine it actually does take advantage of quite a bit of it. But I mean, it feels to me, and this is the reason that I think I frustrated Adam so much, because what I wanted was a specific of what a Mac Pro might do, because I know Adam is really excited about the possibility of a Mac Pro. And I think what Adam is excited about is sort of the same thing that I've just kind of come to expect, that as our hardware gets more power, the applications that get handed to me have more power. And I may only use 1/10 of the power that's handed to me, but somebody else might have greater uses for it. I don't know if that makes sense.
I might be able to distill that answer for you too. But like, I think for me, the excitement comes down to the thing that excited me from the very beginning about using a Mac. And that's and I've talked about this a lot. It's the idea of the technology moving away and getting out of the way of the creative process. And so the more power that creative professionals have, in terms, like I said, of not having to wait for things, to just have a vision and go, I want to do that, and just doing it, and not having the technological barriers of, I have to wait 3 minutes while that renders, or I have to wait to realize that vision. When that fades away, it's the creativity that then gets to excel. Not that it's being hindered a lot right now, like we have more creativity and more options with our technology now, but the better and better that it gets, the more that fades away, right? And the more we get to the idea of, I have an idea and I realize the vision. That's it. There's nothing in between.
Ken, I have the same sense, the same thing you just described in terms of your question for Adam, I have for you about the AR, VR.
Mm-hmm.
I can't make any, I'm not unenthused about it, but I have an absolute blank about why in the world anyone would want it. I'm sure it will, I didn't know why anyone would want an iPhone either. So I'm not, but
Yeah. So the rumors, and I did this story yesterday, I think on macOS Ken, or today on macOS Ken, the rumors on the AR VR headset are that it's going to have, one of the things I'm most excited about is it's going to have 15 cameras. And I don't really like the idea of having that many cameras or that many optical sensors on something that's, in my home, especially when I'm not looking at it. But I would imagine, going back to Adam's joke years ago about how we're part of their paid developer program, I think, this is just guess, this is just speculation. I think that what Apple is going to do is they'll come out with an AR VR headset, if those rumors are true. And mostly what people are going to be excited about is going to be VR. Mostly what people are going to be excited about is all the game developers who have lived in the App Store for years and have either been on like this screen, or once it moved to the TV, this screen, right? Now they're going to be able to do this thing that right now is really owned by Facebook and by people who want to work with Facebook. But we're all going to have this helmet that's also going to have all these cameras, and somebody's going to have some idea of fun things you can do with that. So they're going to be developing for AR as well, and it's only going to be in the home, but Apple wants a pair of glasses like the ones Adam is wearing, glasses that you wouldn't feel stupid walking down the street in, right? They're going to do the AR thing, but if they introduce it, you've almost got the same problem that you had with apps for the Apple Watch. Apps for the Apple Watch were a thing that everybody was really excited about. I know there are still some that are out there, but it didn't become the kind of app playground that a lot of people expected or hoped it would. And I don't think they want to introduce glasses like Apple's and then say, or glasses like Adam's, excuse me, and then say, okay, everybody now go make us apps. I think they want people making apps with this mixed reality headset, so that when the technology catches up to that vision of just being able to go out with that, and you're already using the apps around the house. There are already 5,000 of them. Developers already know how to do AR at that point. It's just being able to take it outside the house and do it. So I am exactly where you are on AR. I don't know, but I know I'm excited to see what happens with it. I'm excited to see, what people do. I tend to go more in sort of the games area, or more in sort of the history area, or, putting art places where art isn't, or letting me buy a wall. And this will be terrible as far as advertising and stuff like that, but let me buy a wall that's on somebody's walk, and then I can put, my name, or, just paint "Have a nice day" or something like that if people are in that app environment. I mean, the ideas, the possibilities are not limitless, but the possibilities are so huge that it's kind of hard to get my head around it. I'm assuming that we're going to have 3 or 4 years of people playing with it to find out before it becomes a make or break thing, before that piece of hardware, the eyeglasses, before that becomes a make or break thing for Apple. I think we'll have a long time of people figuring out what they would do with it once they went outside with it.
Okay. I've more fallen prey to modern sci-fi. And I have been talking about this on my podcast recently because I need people to basically talk me off the ledge, because my concern is that in the age of COVID and social distancing and stuff like that, like we're steps away from the Matrix or, the Oasis or something like that. And we're going to go all, potentially take this technology and move further inward. And, I realize it has great potential to do exactly the opposite, and that's where a lot of people see it. Will that be the reality? I don't know. That's when I start thinking about the applications. It's like, are we all just going to go into this virtual world and then never want to come out because we feel like it's funner or better or
no germs,
more enjoyable than, what's going on out here?
Well, that's depressing.
I know. I don't want to get depressing. Like, that's why I need people to tell me, no, Adam, it's really going to be okay.
I'll take you another way. I got to, so a few years ago when I was working with Roddenberry, I got to be part of a museum that they built inside a virtual reality startup called Sansar. And what was really neat about it was all this stuff that we've all seen on screen. Either the Roddenberry organization or some other people actually had that stuff. And so they went and they got the highest resolution photography of it that they could. And then all of a sudden, you are standing next to this costume or this bit of wardrobe that you've seen on screen forever. And the thing that's amazing about well done VR is you can get close enough to see where at one point Shatner pulled a thread on his jacket, or somebody else did some other time, but you can lean in that close to really get, and of course, you're leaning in physical world, but you're not near anything.
Right.
And so Sansar also had a wonderful thing where you could go to a tomb, not like a full pyramid, but some scientific organization had completely, captured in as high a detail as they possibly could a tomb that was 4,000 years old. I'd never be allowed to go in there, but I can go in there virtually. And again, you can get this close to the wall and see the marks that some guy with a chisel made 4,000 years ago. And I'm never going to get to Egypt. If they brought that around in a museum, you'd still be 6 feet away and you can't get near it. And here's a blow up of it, or you can virtually be, right there next to it. The possibilities for education, for experience. And obviously, the real experience is being with the thing. The real experience is being able to, get as close to touching the thing as you can or standing next to it.
Okay.
Most of us aren't. So it would be wonderful to see that happen. It was a true pleasure hanging with the Silicon Valley Mac user group. I hope you enjoyed listening in this week. If you'd like to know more about them, svmug.org. Silicon Valley Mac User Group, svmug.org. They have lots of past presentations available on their YouTube channel with a link to that right on their homepage. My Talk with Adam is there, along with presentations from Brian Chaffin, Jim Dalrymple, Allison Sheridan, Joe Kissel, and a bunch of others. As I say, there is a link to their YouTube channel at the bottom of the page, svmug.org. And thanks again to the Silicon Valley Mac User Group for letting us swing by. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macosken. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. info@macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. A brand new year starts tomorrow, and a new year of macOS Ken starts Monday. Happy New Year, one and all. Until next time, that will do this special edition of macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.